This is the global classroom of Mapua Malayan Colleges Laguna. I'd like to welcome everybody here in the Philippines. Our students are from different programs. Most of them are from the psychology department, and some are from the business college. And I welcome also those who are out there in Egypt from Galala University, Dr. Yasser and class. Welcome, and I'm very glad that we are about to finally start this very exciting session together. This is a series. This will be the first. The other part of our series will be next week on the same days, Tuesday, same time. I am Professor Oliver Castillo. My nickname is Jet. You can call me Sir Jet. And to begin with, we will now have three groups who will report on the history of Cairo. The first group will tackle about ancient Cairo. The second group will talk about Cairo in the 18th and 19th centuries and 20th centuries. Okay? And then the last group will talk about Cairo today in the 21st century. So without further ado, I will now turn over the floor to the first reporters.
To the professors and students of Mapua MCL, good afternoon everyone. And to the professors and students of Galala University, good morning. I am Victoria Janelva Ogbok and
I am Jessa Joanna Kubay.
And we are here to present about ancient Cairo.
During ancient Egypt, there were two social divisions of land called Lower and Upper Egypt. Their civilizations sprang beside the Nile River coming from the Mediterranean Sea.
The Nile River played a vital role in ancient Cairo's growth and success. Its fertile land supported agriculture, while the river itself served as a trade route, making the city a center for commerce and cultural exchange.
Ancient Cairo's economy was largely dependent on agriculture. The manufacturing sector was also well developed, especially in cloth, pottery, and metals. The ruling elites held significant influence over the economy, which included slavery, and trade was conducted through a barter system.
The religion of ancient Cairo was polytheistic and centered around the pharaoh, in which they believed that his purpose rather was to assist the gods in maintaining order in the universe. Other ceremonies were also practiced, such as those related to birth and naming.
The ancient city of Cairo was home to a thriving and long-lasting civilization that was distinguished by polytheistic religion, enormous temples, colossal artworks, hieroglyphs, widespread trade, etc. It has left a significant and enduring mark on history and culture.
The Great Sphinx of Giza in Cairo is the largest surviving statue from the ancient world, standing at 240 feet high and 240 feet long. It has the head of a human, the body of a lion, and is made of limestone. The statue was considered to be 4,500 years old.
Cairo was established by the Fatimids under the leadership of General Jawar al-Sikili, who took his orders from the Fatimid Caliph Al-Mu'izz-Din Allah to be the new capital for the Fatimid dynasty.
Cairo was officially founded as a city in 969 CE by the Fatimids. with the name Al-Qahira. This period marked the city's rise as a major center in the Islamic world. Cairo's official name is Al-Qahira, which means vanquisher or the conqueror or the victorious.
After the declines of the Fatimids, the Ayyubid dynasty and later the Mamluks ruled Egypt. During this time, Cairo became a major center of Islamic learning and culture, with the constructions of many madrasas and architectural marvels like the Sultan Hassan Mosque and the Citadel of Cairo.
The Ayyubid dynasty was founded by Salah ad-Din, commonly known as Saladin, who emerged as a powerful figure in the Islamic world in the late 12th century. He is best known for his role in the Crusades, including the recapture of Jerusalem from the Crusaders in 1187.
The Mamluks were a slave soldier class who seized power in Egypt after overthrowing the Ayyubids in 1250. The Mamluk Sultanate ruled Egypt for centuries and is divided into two main dynasties, the Bari Mamluks and the Bori Mamluks.
The Ottoman Empire, led by Sultan Selim I, conquered Egypt and Cairo in 1517. Under Ottoman rule, Cairo became an important provincial capital within the Ottoman Empire. The city's administration was restructured and Ottoman governors known as pashas were appointed to oversee the region.
The Ottomans left a lasting architectural and cultural influence on Cairo. They contributed to the constructions and renovations of various structures, including mosques, palaces, and public buildings. Notable examples include the Mosque of Sultan Hassan and the Mosque Madrasa of the Sultan Murad.
Salah al-Din built the citadel of the mountain in Egypt to protect Cairo from potential Crusader attacks. The construction began in 1176 and was completed in 1182 during the ruling period of Al-Malik el-Khanate.
Inside Salah al-Din Citadel, there is one of the most famous historical mosques in the world, which is the Mosque of Muhammad Ali. Its construction process took about 18 years. Muhammad Ali decided to build this mosque in the memory of his son, Tushan Pasha, who died in 1860.
The Great Pyramid of Giza, also known as the Pyramid of Khufu, is estimated to have been constructed using around 2.3 million blocks of stone, each weighing several tons. This incredible engineering feat showcases the advanced architectural and technical skills of ancient Egyptians during the Old Kingdom period.
Located in southern Asian Cairo, this temple was dedicated to the god and played a crucial role in religious and political ceremonies. It features impressive columns, statues, and inscriptions. The annual Open Festival was held here, which emphasized the previous authority as a mediator between the people and the gods.
And lastly, the House of Wisdom was founded in Baghdad, Iraq. During the early Islamic Caliphate around the 8th century, the House of Wisdom was a famous establishment in ancient Cairo during the Islamic Golden Age and served as a center for learning, translation, and research, contributing to the preservation and dissemination of knowledge.
And that concludes our presentation. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Right, so please reserve your questions and other comments after the third group has performed. So now let's move over to the second group. They will talk about Cairo, the 19th and 20th centuries.
Okay, we'd like to thank the first group for the presentation, and we are looking forward for the second group. We cannot hear the sound.
We haven't started yet, sir. A little technical problem.
Okay. All right.
Okay, let's start.
Okay.
Good day, everyone. My name is Naftali Mariano, and I'm here with
Isaac Fidelis Plana.
today. We, your presenters, will be delving into numerous breakthroughs in the city of Cairo during the 1800 and 1900. We're going to talk about the city's history from wars, industrialization, with notable people. During 1800 and 1811, while under Ottoman rule, the Mamluks held a significant power in Cairo. They were slave soldiers and were considered as the powerhouse in the city of Cairo. They constructed mosques, madrasas, and other educational institutes. But unfortunately for them, they were ambushed and massacred in 1811. But Muhammad Ali Pasha, the Ottoman viceroy of Egypt, it was through his orders in which the Mamluk leaders were massacred in Cairo. Muhammad Ali Pasha, after gaining control, during 1830 to 1848, he reformed Cairo's military. And he established the well-trained Egyptian army, established a printing press for education, and improved irrigation techniques in Cairo, enhancing agricultural output. Due to the advancement of agriculture, during the 1854 and to 1863, cotton and trade boomed. And it is considered as the rise of prosperity in Egypt's cotton industry in the mid-19th century. Because of the high demand of trade, they needed a better route to transport resources. Thus, the opening of the Suez Canal in 1869. It now serves as a vital pathway for transporting goods, which hold a strategic location as seen on the slide. And unfortunately for them, British colonization begins. After the Battle of Tel el-Kabir, the British forces saw the strategic victory over the Egyptians. The British effectively controlled the city and country's administration and finances. And as a result, Egypt became a de facto British protectorate. Having this status doesn't necessarily mean that the British has complete control over them. They still have their Egyptian leader, but real power comes from the British army. Next, fortunately, it manifested into political movements. It then began to take shape in the city, where this played key role in advocating for Egyptian independence. Came from 1919 to 1922, the path to independence. Next, after this, in 1936, the Anglo-Egyptian Treaty was established, which the British withdrew all troops, but because of the high impact of Suez Canal, they spared those guarding the Suez Canal and gained control over it.
Thank you, Nap. And for this slide, as we can see, Egypt served as a strategic base for the Allied forces during 1939 to 1945 in World War II. And in the images provided, we have New Zealand troops being trained in Egypt and both enemy and Allied forces in the desert. And in 1952, the Nasser regime republic era was formed. And we can see in the images the two driving forces behind this era, Mohammed Naguib and Gamal Abdel Nasser. This resulted in the declaration of the Republic of Egypt in the subsequent year. Going back to what was stated a while ago regarding the Suez Canal, we know that it was created by European forces. And in 1956, Egypt's reclaiming and nationalization of the Suez Canal resulted in the invasion of said EU forces, i.e. Britain, France, and also Israel. This was also known as the Suez Crisis. Unfortunately, during 1967, Israel has achieved decisive victory over Egypt, resulting in the occupation of the Sinai Peninsula. This was known as the Six-Day War, also known as the June War or the Third Arab-Israeli War. We can also see photographs that were taken when the battle took place. And in 1973, the Yom Kippur War took place. This was when Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel, aiming to reclaim lost territories. Although this war ended with a victory, Egypt was able to reclaim the Sinai Peninsula after the war. It was also called the October War or the Ramadan War. Fortunately, as we can see in this slide, the first peace treaty between an Arab country, in this case Egypt, and Israel was signed by Egypt's third president, Anwar Sadat, during 1979. We can see photographs of the peace treaty in the slide taking place. However, that path to peace wasn't once without problems, as on October 6, 1991, while celebrating the annual Victory Parade crossing, Egypt's president at the time, Anwar Sadat, was assassinated by members of the Islamic Egyptian Jihad. Progressing through the 1990s, however, we have the expansion of the Cairo metro system. The expansion connected Shobra al-Qaima to Cairo University, while also extending to Giza. This expansion allowed for the employment of many young individuals at the time of its development. And for our final slide, we have the Cairo Opera House and the African Cup of Nations during 1996. As we can see in the images presented, we can see the South African team winning the African Cup of Nations and a photo of the Cairo Opera House, a symbol of Egypt's cultural renaissance, which is still operational to this day. That is all for our report. These are the following members that contributed to the success of this presentation, and thank you for watching.
Thank you very much. That's group 2. And now let's move over to group 3. They will talk about Cairo in the 21st century.
Hey everyone, we are the last group. Today here with me is Mr. Lauren Shaltang and I am Alexa Lerano, and we will be our group's presenter for Cairo in Modern Times. You might think that Cairo is a city of monuments living in the past, but today, Cairo is a bustling city full of life, one of the most important cities in the Islamic world, and a major center for business, trade, education, and culture. The city has also become known as the City of Thousand Minarets as of today. Cairo is the capital of Egypt. The modern city is located near the ruins of Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt. Cairo's total space is 3,084.676 kilometers squared, and the inhabited area is 108.983 kilometers squared. As for the population, Cairo has an estimated population of more than 10 million in 2022. And according to macrotrends.net, the current metro area of Egypt is 22,183,000. The form of government in Cairo, Egypt is republic, the chief of state is the president, and the head of the government is the prime minister. As of today, the current president in Egypt is Mr. Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Cairo is the economic and industrial center of Egypt. Other than its largest sector in economy comes from petroleum and natural gas industry, tourism also contributes with its economy. As of today, it is also indicated here that Egypt's Suez Canal continues to thrive amid trade disruptions triggered by Russia's conflict in Ukraine. Cairo has been long known manufacturing capital of Egypt. Its chief products mainly comes from agricultural products, as well as textile and garments, which is the second largest industrial sector, produces a wide range of products for both domestic and international markets. As for its culture, the overall dress code is conservative. Their clothing is a unique blend of fashion influenced by different regions and cultures, and also their pride in their heritage. They take great care to preserve it. As for their language, Cairo now uses Arabic as their primary language. Tradition thrives in Egypt. Majority of Cairo's population is Muslim, with estimates suggesting that over 90% of residents adhere to Islam, while with around 10% or less adheres to Coptic Orthodox Christian minority. The government generally permits the existence of Christian places around Egypt. For the first tourist spot, we have Pyramid of Giza. It is the largest Egyptian pyramid and serves as the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu and also one of the seven wonders of the world. Next would be the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. It is the first museum in the Arab world focusing on the first civilization in history. Next would be the Nile Island District of Zamalek, Cairo's top dining destination. There are also a plot of art galleries to explore around here.
Egypt being a predominantly Muslim country, people are careful in what they wear. Cairo is a generally safe and welcoming place for all people of all faiths. The city has a long history of religious tolerance and diversity, and most people in Cairo are respectful of other religions. As for the latest innovations and development, modern buildings with exceptional architectural designs are created in the city of Cairo. Here we can see the Grand Egyptian Museum, Nile Towers, and Opera House. For our first problem, food and beverages is the highest price surge, while the smallest increase was observed in the meat and poultry, rising by 0.8%. Healthcare costs also saw a sharp increase of 3.8% and of 22.6% since the previous year due to high medical equipment prices. Transportation costs rose by 0.8% on a month-on-month basis. For our second problem, air pollution is a chronic problem in Cairo, primarily attributable to factors such as a growing population, uncontrolled rural migration, rapid urbanization, and the presence of heavy industries near residential areas. And approximately 2 million Egyptians seek medical treatment for respiratory problems due to pollution. For our third problem, according to specialists in water management, rising sea levels due to climate change are causing saltwater intrusions that not only harm water supplies but also ruin agricultural soil. There's an ongoing dispute with countries due to filling of GR Dam from the river will result in the reduction of water supply to Egypt. For our fourth problem, a study found that more than half of drug users in Egypt use tramadol, followed by heroin and cannabis. The highest concentration of drug users is in Cairo and Giza, which account for over 52% of all drug users in Egypt, because these are home to some of the largest slums in the world where poverty and unemployment are high. And for our fifth problem, overpopulation and secure infrastructure. Efforts to address the problem of overpopulation in Cairo include urban planning, initiatives to promote family planning and reduce birth rates, and investment in infrastructure development. However, these challenges remain complex and require comprehensive and sustained solutions to ensure success. In conclusion, Cairo, Egypt is a city of rich history, cultural diversity, and ongoing challenges. It stands as a vibrant metropolis with a growing economy and thriving startups ecosystem. However, it faces several pressing problems that demand attention and solutions. And that's all for our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, group 3. So,
Okay, we'd like
floor is now open. Yes, sir, for your students to comment on our reports.
wonderful presentations. Thank you very much. نعم مفتوح. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentations by your students. And we can now open the floor for any comments or questions from our side. I think the presentations were very comprehensive. They covered the major timeline of Egypt and Cairo. And there are some points that I'll keep my points to the end, but we would like to hear from our students here and colleagues. Please go ahead. Any comment or question? Did they miss anything from about us? Do you want to add anything that was not mentioned that you think is important? Yes, please. Go ahead in English. Come forward. Come forward. Come. عيب تعال. Okay, what is your question?
No, I have a comment that all students did so well, and they participated very well in these presentations. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think they don't have other questions or comments. So I think I will go ahead with my presentation, if you don't mind, so that we can keep the time.
Sir, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible. It's a blue
Okay.
slide. It says
All right.
University. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, thank you first for your magnificent presentations on Egypt and Cairo. It shows us how you see us from from a different part of the world, and we will introduce some aspects that would like you also to know more about Cairo and Egypt. Cairo and Egypt is a long history of different civilizations and times. That's why we look at it as layers of history, starting from the ancient Egyptians, Greco-Roman period, Christian period, Islamic, Ottoman, and modern civilization or modern time. These different layers, they actually are all integrated and interconnected to produce the Cairo and Egypt that we see today. That's why when you visit Cairo, you see different types of urban settings, you see different types of architecture. They are all connected and linked in one place. So you can see the ancient Egyptian monuments, you can see the Coptic churches, you can see the Islamic mosques, you can see the modern buildings that are being constructed in the 21st century. Egypt was a very important part of the old world. The old world, as we know it, is the countries around the Mediterranean Sea. The states from Athens, from Greece to Italy, Rome, to Turkey, Istanbul, to Palestine, Jerusalem, and Egypt, Cairo. This was, and Iraq, Mesopotamia. So this was the ancient world that was connected by the Mediterranean. That's why Egyptian culture is actually connected to Europe, North Africa, and Asia more than upper parts of Africa or the rest of Africa. Egypt was always at the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa because its location connecting the three continents together. That's why, as you have mentioned, the Suez Canal was an important element to connect the northern part where Europe is and the southern part where India and the rest of Asia and Africa is. So it was always a passage for the world from north to south. Egypt, as Herodot says, is the product of the Nile, or the gift of the Nile. As he said, the Nile is the only water source in Egypt coming from Upper Africa and in Ethiopia and Sudan. And it goes through Egypt, providing water for all the country until it reaches the part that we call the Delta. The Delta of the Nile is a very fertile area that used to be the producer of wheat and corn and other products that Europe depended on for several years. That's why the Greek and Roman wanted to occupy Egypt to have this fertile land, productive land. The weather is excellent. The water of the Nile.
Excuse me, sir. There. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because the slides are not moving a while ago. Now it's okay. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
You may now proceed. The slides are okay now.
Okay. As I said, the Nile is the most important provider or the only water provider in Egypt, because we do not depend on the rain. We don't have much rain. We only depend on the Nile for our agriculture and life. That's why if you compare the old key of Egypt that the pharaohs produced and the actual map of the Delta and the Nile and Cairo, you understand that this symbol is actually the symbol of Egypt, the symbol of life. That's why they call it the key of life in Egypt. Cairo is actually a city that is located between the Nile and the mountain. There is the Al-Muqattam mountain, and this spot is the most important strategic location in Egypt, because all people who invaded Egypt, they come from the north, and they have to go through this spot in order to continue to occupy the rest of Egypt. That's why this spot where Muhammad Ali and Salah ad-Din built the citadel and the forts there to protect the rest of the country from any invasion. So this is actually the most strategic part. The Nile used to flood on both sides every year, and it made the land beside it uninhabitable until Muhammad Ali came and he created the dams and the qanatir for water, and this controlled the Nile. So control of the Nile was always an important achievement for any leader. So actually, Cairo started beside, on the upper levels of the land, beside the mountain, started from the ancient times of the Roman and then the Christian and then the Arabs came with the Islamic settlements of Fustat, Askar, Qata'a, and then Fatimid Cairo, all the way to Ottoman Cairo, and then started to expand north to Heliopolis, New Cairo, and other parts of the country. So the mountain is a very important element in the creation of Cairo, along with the Nile. That's why Cairo started in this strategic defensive location in Egypt. So Fatimid Cairo, as we know it, is the first important significant settlement in that place. It was surrounded by walls and gates and a main street in the middle, Al Mu'izz Street, that created the urban fabric of this area with mosques, palaces, shops, and so forth. And it's still currently the most important part of the old Islamic Cairo. This is a picture that I took last week when I was visiting with my students of the walls of Cairo. And this is the gate to the old city. And to the left, you see the minaret of one of the important mosques called Al-Hakim Mosque. So Cairo started by the mountain and then expanded towards the Nile when Muhammad Ali created the dams on the Nile and controlled the water. So this part of Cairo started to be inhabitable and started to build on it. So his achievements were, of course, as you mentioned in your presentations, to create a first Egyptian army since the ancient Egyptians, composed of real Egyptians. And his control of the Nile was a very important achievement that allowed him to expand and allowed his sons, especially Khedive Ismail, who was raised in Europe and was admiring the European civilization and advancements. So he wanted to make Egypt a piece of Europe. So he actually assigned architects and planners who planned Paris to come to Cairo and make a new area. It's currently called the Khedive Cairo, where he imported the same styles and the same architectural features. So actually, Cairo started to expand from the mountain to create different areas along the Nile. And this became the heart of Cairo, or what we call the downtown of Cairo. And as you see, the planning of Cairo is this is the downtown of Cairo, and this is the downtown of Paris. And they are following the same planning ideas of squares and radiating streets connecting the squares with each other. These two pictures, one in Cairo and one in Paris. Guess what? The upper one is in Paris, the lower one is in Cairo. Very similar buildings, very typical. That's why Khedive Ismail wanted to create a Cairo, a new Cairo that is following the styles of Europe. This is also a recent picture of one of our most important squares, Al-Tahrir Square, where all the buildings surrounding the downtown Cairo are following the European style. He also built the first opera house during the opening of the Suez Canal. And this was a major event that he invited rulers of Europe to attend. So Cairo started to become very similar to European cities with streets, automobiles, cars, sidewalks, and this was all provided by the control of the Nile. Two important elements in the production of Cairo is the defense of Egypt and the control of the Nile, as we see. Also, the introduction of modern means of transportation, of trains and metros, created a new opportunity to move around and see and establish new areas and new settlements in Cairo. One of the most important parts of Cairo is Heliopolis. And this was started by the Belgium Baron Ampin in 1894. He introduced that tram, or what you call metro, to create a new part of Egypt or Cairo. It's called Heliopolis. It's far from downtown Cairo to the north, connected by the metro line that provided transportation for the inhabitants. Heliopolis is one of the most important neighborhoods of Cairo that is following modern styles of architecture, and it has also an Arab Islamic mix of features. So it has the arcades, it has the vaults, it has the minarets. So all these are elements that produced a new important part of Cairo for different levels. So this is a picture of the famous square or part of Heliopolis, where the Arab modern and styles of architecture are used. And that also has an important basilica that it's where the Baron is buried. In 1952, we had the revolution by Gamal Abdel Nasser, and he also started a new era of Cairo called Nasr City, which is following a more modern type of planning and architecture of buildings and facilities like football stadium and government houses. And these were products of the 50s and 60s ideas of socialism and community participation. This is one of the largest stadiums. This can host up to 100,000 spectators. Actually, also Nasser wanted to increase the income of the people, so he gave the farmers land, and he also introduced a rent control mechanism for the houses in Cairo to limit the amount of rent for the people. So that actually reduced the number of produced houses and created a shortage in housing. This is also coupled with the 1967 war. This war produced big problems because of the evacuation of the cities along the Suez Canal, Port Said, Ismailia, Suez, and it lasted for 6 years until 1973, 6th of October War, that freed the area and the country from the occupation. But this period of rent control and the wars produced a big shortage in housing. So it started the phenomenon of informal housing in Egypt that we are still suffering from. There are large areas of informal housing and deteriorated areas that the government now is trying to replan and introduce new housing for the people and eliminate this type of housing completely. But Cairo is still suffering from large areas of informal housing, crowded, and produces many problems of poverty, of health, of inappropriate living conditions. And this phenomenon is actually spreading from the Cairo to other cities and actually to other villages. That is currently also suffering from the informal housing that is created along the skirts of the old villages. Old villages were all built on higher grounds. And when the people wanted to build their new houses, they eradicated the fertile land to produce houses for themselves. So actually, it's not only a housing problem, it also affects the productivity of the agricultural land. So Cairo actually grew very fast in a very short time, and it's still, of course, growing with new settlements and new cities coming out around it, like the 6th of October and New Cairo area. And if in the future, we have the new capital. But when we compare Cairo to other cities around the world, we actually see that it's still not a very large urban area compared to other cities like New York or Chicago or Los Angeles. It is still growing, and it is expanding east and west of the Nile, with many settlements closer to Cairo or a bit distant, like 10th of Ramadan, Shuru, Abur, 15th of May. So actually the city is still expanding. This is one of the new neighborhoods. It's called New Cairo, and it is adjacent to Old Cairo, and it provides a new lifestyle and new facilities for the inhabitants of Cairo. It has many new universities, has shopping centers and gated communities that are also being introduced. The most recent project in Egypt is the new administrative capital, and it is located east of Cairo. It's actually closer to close to us, also about 70 kilometers from Galala, and it is a huge endeavor in planning and architecture. This is a picture of the new administrative capital in 2013. It was still a desert. And in 2023, we see that the city is coming up with many important features like the mosques and the new cathedrals and new administrative headquarters for the ministries and the parliament and president. So this is the new parliament building that is opening in the new administrative capital. This is a downtown area of towers and offices and hotels. And this is what we call the iconic tower in the new administrative capital. And this is a major development for business and companies. One of our important projects that is opening end of this year is the GEM, or the Grand Egyptian Museum. And this museum is located near the pyramids, and it's a huge building that hosts the collection of Tutankhamun permanently. So it will stop going around the world. It will be hosted here with several monuments and exhibitions. It is expected to open end of this year. One of the important buildings in Egypt, this is Alexandria Library, and it's reviving the memory of Alexandria Library that was burned during the Roman occupation and hosted most of the important documents of ancient Egypt. But this building is a modern building that is a number of books and collections, and it's a major attraction in Egypt. And it has huge space for studying and reading, and very large collection of special buildings. This is another important building. It's the new Supreme Court building that is built overlooking the Nile, the Nile in Maadi. And this building is what we call postmodern architecture style that uses the ancient Egyptian architecture to create a new building that relates the Egyptians to their old past and identity. And it actually introduces the same elements of ancient Egyptian architecture in a new language and a new way. This is the current opera house in Gezira. This was built to replace the old opera house built by Khedive Ismail that was burned in the 1960s. And it hosts major events, classical, Arabic, modern music all year round. One of the important projects is Al-Azhar Park. This used to be a junkyard for many years, but the Aga Khan Award for architecture, they took care of this area in the heart of Cairo and renovated it as a public park that has several areas for sitting, for playing, for kids, restaurants, and so forth. It's overlooking the old Cairo, the Islamic Cairo here, and the new Cairo to the right. This is a view from the Al-Azhar Park towards the citadel. it hosts many events and many activities in fancy restaurants. And it also a very popular place for people and one of the few green areas in Cairo. One of the important projects in Cairo is the Children's Cancer Hospital, what we call 57357. And this is a major health provider for kids, especially cancer patients. And it is becoming one of the icons of health in Egypt. One of the important buildings actually is the Cairo Tower, which is located in Gezira. And it has a rounded restaurant on top that overlooks Cairo from different positions. It's 187 meters high, built between 56 and 61 by a famous architect, Naum Shibib. One of the recent architecture work is done by a young architect called Walid Arafa. This is a mosque in a village called Basuna, and he introduces Islamic architecture in a new language in a setting within a village in Suhag. Lastly, I will just introduce the most famous architect in Egypt, who is called Hassan Fathi. Hassan Fathi was an architect who put all his effort to provide housing for the poor, not only in Egypt, but around the world. And he's well known in all parts of the world with his famous work using the domes and vaults, what he calls architecture for the poor. So people can build by their hands with the material under their feet without any cost. Just teach them the method and they can do it on their own. So these are some of his architectural work that depicts his style of architecture using the mud brick to create the vaults and domes of the houses. That is the end of my presentation. Okay, so if there are any questions or comments from your side, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yasser. That was a very impressive and very comprehensive presentation. Makes me want to visit your country.
Yes,
And,
you are all welcome to come to Egypt, of course.
yes, because I'm a history buff, and I'm very much amazed by the new learnings I got today from you and in your lecture. So the floor is now open for our Filipino students. Ask questions or say any comment about Dr. Yasser's presentation. Go ahead. Mr. Falcon is going to come forward, ask the question.
The question I would like to ask is that, what places do you recommend in this state of Cairo?
What place would you recommend for us to visit in Cairo?
Yes, I think we should make an exchange students group to from both sides to visit.
This is the pyramid the place where the pyramids are they far from Cairo?
The pyramid is about 15 kilometers from downtown Cairo. There is one road that leads to Al Giza area. Of course, the pyramid, as I said, Cairo, the pyramid is built on a higher ground, away from the Nile. So the flooding, the yearly flooding of the Nile, does not reach it. That's why most of the ancient monuments are located away from the Nile, because the yearly flooding used to cover the whole land and ruin everything. So people had to build away or higher ground.
How about today, sir? You mentioned about the annual flooding of the Nile. Do you experience flood problems in downtown Cairo?
No, actually, after the construction of the high dam in 1960, this high dam controlled the water of the Nile and created a large lake behind it called Lake Nasser. And now the water of the Nile is controlled by the dam and is allowed only for the amount is allowed only for the agriculture purposes. So we do not suffer any floodings anymore since the 1960.
Very much for that information. Okay, some more question from our Filipino students. Mr. John, you're raising your hand.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Is there like an event where the mountains like landslide? Right.
Landslide.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question here. Do you experience landslides from the mountains?
No, in some areas, yes, we used to have some of the informal housing settlements on dangerous areas with some rocks falling on them. But the government got rid of this problem, and the mountain is very stable, except of some edgy parts of large rocks that might fall during earthquakes. But it's very stable now.
Some more questions? We have students from the other room. The floor is open. You can hear me, so just open your mic or make yourself, make your presence be felt. And we also have a student, we have a classmate in Dubai right now and a classmate in New Zealand. Maybe you have questions. They're with us today in this Zoom meeting. Questions, please. Amores has a question. Are your students are they architecture majors?
We have several majors. We have students from
Hi, Joseph. Edward.
You know,
pharmacy, all those are pharmacy. Anyone from medical school? Anyone from the medical school? No? Okay, anyone from business? Okay, from business. We have students from different majors. We have business, we have computer science, we have pharmacy. We have many. Okay, I think we need to wrap up the session because of the time.
Okay. So, any parting words, sir, that you want to say to us?
Well, I would like to thank you very much for the wonderful session and the wonderful presentations by your students. Excellent graphics, excellent text, excellent presentation, oral presentation. And I hope you will like our presentations next week, inshallah.
Okay. We're looking forward to that.
Yes, yes, very much.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to close our global classroom today. This is a series, so we will have part 2 next Tuesday, November 14, 9 o'clock or 9:50 a.m. in Egypt, and 3 o'clock here in the Philippines. Okay, so
Yes.
thank you very much for attending.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Goodbye.